Hello, hello, and welcome back to Fungcast, everybody. Today, episode 33, our special guest is going to be Cesar Marin of Cultivating Wisdom. Um, he's a motivational speaker from what I've seen, and just an all-around good guy that's here for the movement. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Jason, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate you giving me the time and the space to come here and talk to you and get to know each other. We've been on a couple of incubators, a couple of Zoom meetings that Dennis Walker puts together, and we've connected that way. So it's I have a feeling that we're all mushrooms, and the more we connect to each other through this mycelial human network, the better we can become. So thank you for letting me connect to your mycelial network, Jason.
And likewise, because together, if we create one large mycelial network, we'll end up just all moving up,
Yeah, of course.
And on that note, right, like mycelium, we network.
Exactly. And that's what it's about. It's, with me getting into the mushroom space, I realized that the human connection is really important, right? When we connect to other human beings, and we look at them in the eyes, or we give them a hug, or we do podcasts with them, and we get to know each other. That's really important, right? Because we've become a society where we spend so much time in front of a screen looking at other things that we don't have that time for that human connections like mushrooms do. Mushrooms are connecting all the time. They're not sitting there looking at their phones. They're sitting there looking at
Man.
other connections.
They connect us in so many different ways, yeah, it's all easy to get lost even in the face value of all of the social media as well, right? And not necessarily see the deeper, you only see the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, right?
Correct.
But also you don't see the trials and tribulations that somebody may be going through in that very moment.
That's true, and it's part of social media, right? And I think it depends, because it's a two-way street, right? It's what you're putting out if you're a creator. So I look at you, and you are very authentic, right? You're there, and sometimes you're without a shirt, and sometimes you're just around the house, and sometimes you're just flipping eggs. You're letting people into your world, which is beautiful, right? You're connecting in that way. So as creators of content, we do have that responsibility to be authentic a bit, right? Because there are those people who are out there creating stuff that's sort of it's all fake, or it's all smoke and mirrors, and people don't realize that when their camera's off, they could also be going through trials and tribulations. They can also be going through trauma. So I think that's important. And as the consumer of content, I think, like you said, it's also important to be aware, to be conscious that not all is glamour and glory and glitz, and that sometimes we do need to find those people that we can follow who are sitting there flipping eggs without a shirt and just being at home. I think it's important that we have those content creators in our lives also, those people who are authentic, those people who are vulnerable, those people who say, look, I'm a human just like you are. I bleed, I hurt, I joy, I celebrate, right? I think that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I think that's kind of like that's why I guess the whole point of my authenticity is to show that we're all just humans flipping eggs at the end of the day. And most of us are doing it without a shirt on. Never cook bacon without a shirt on. That's a different story.
Make sure you know how to flip that egg, because if you flip it wrong and you have no shirt on and some of that egg lands on.
Oh, man. I flipped 4 eggs this morning all at once. That was, I think, my record.
It's a technique.
You gotta flick the wrist.
Yeah, it's all on the wrist. It's on the flick of the wrist. It's on the flick of the wrist. Definitely.
But I mean, I think like this is a good transition into just hearing about Cesar as a human. So it's as for those who are listening, and if you don't know, we're pretty much we're getting to know each other right now on the podcast. So you are experiencing the beginning of the friendship.
I think that's beautiful, Jason. It's sort of letting people into, the creation of a relationship, of a friendship, of a networking, connection, right? Letting people in there, I think that's awesome, because again, then your audience, your viewers get to know me a little bit more, and if they're interested, they could tap in, and same vice versa. If I post this, people who are sort of interested in what you're doing,
Absolutely.
we connect, and that's what that networking part is awesome. So who is Cesar Marin?
Yeah.
Cesar Marin for 25 years was a producer at CNN. I worked at the CNN, the one and only, for half of my
The
adult life.
CNN.
um, and about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, plant medicine comes into my life. I had never had a psychedelic experience before. I was 54 years old. Had two ecstasy experiences, but it wasn't really
Not the
intentional. It was
same.
just, yeah, it's not the same. And it was just a bad situation. So definitely not the same. But
Yeah.
plant medicine, mushrooms come into my life right before I was about to get laid off at CNN, which again was a paramount time in my life, because something that had identified me. I was known as Cesar Marin, the producer from CNN. That was going to be taken away. And then what was I going to do? There wasn't a lot of people, hiring producers for television, which is the only thing I pretty much knew how to do, because I'd been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah.
But the medicine pretty much says, look, take a deep breath. We're going to close this 25-year chapter, and we're going to open up a new one. You're going to create this platform called Cultivating Wisdom, which is going to help educate people, and show normal, everyday people, mothers, fathers, sons, who are using psychedelics responsibly, who are using them with intentions, who are using them as a life performance enhancer. And that's what you're going to end up doing. And obviously, at first, I was like, okay, what is that going to happen? And it was funny, Jason, because and people who know my story know this. At that time, I was dealing with a really bad relationship with cannabis. Um, you know, like all plant medicines, they can be
Yeah.
beautiful when used intentionally, but it's all about the
Very easily to be
relationship.
abused.
Yeah, it's the relationship that you have with whatever that is. I had a bad relationship with cannabis. I was pretty much cannabis's bitch. Wake up, get high, go to work, get high, at work, get high. It was, and again, it was just a cycle that there's no consciousness. So the term microdosing came into my life after a museum sized dose of psilocybin on a bike ride where I'm totally awakened. I had my own bicycle day, which is just, it's what there's no
That's
coincidence in life,
beautiful,
but
dude. That's
I have
beautiful.
my own bicycle day. And the term microdosing came to me in the sense of, look, through microdosing, you can change your relationship with cannabis. You could be more conscious and say, not right now. It's not that you're going to say, I'm never going to use cannabis again, because abstinence is a difficult situation for human beings, but consciousness is not. And it's that conscious of being able to say, not right now, maybe tomorrow, I don't know, maybe next week,
Yeah.
maybe when there's better weed, I don't know, whatever it is, but that you can say, not right now,
Not
right?
even, there doesn't even necessarily have to be a reason, right? Whenever you feel like you want to do it again, I think is the most important reason.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
wanted to, just quickly backtrack, and I wanted to say it's not necessarily. So I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of months ago,
yeah,
um, and we were speaking, and I remember saying something, and it kind of stuck with me, where I don't want to say it's the end of any chapter anymore, because it's just the beginning of a new chapter.
yeah, exactly.
And whereas you say, right, it's the end of this chapter, but it's not even necessarily, because you're beginning this new chapter of
Yeah.
cultivating wisdom with your previous chapter right behind you.
Exactly. It
You
was
know,
turning the page to the next chapter is what it was, right? That sort of that
absolutely.
25-year chapter of my life had come to an end, right? It was not going to be anymore, but that didn't mean the book was over. What it meant was
No,
that it was going to turn a page to a brand new chapter, so something totally different, where now, it all started with Cultivating Wisdom, the apparel brand, because what I found was the lack of, if I wanted to manifest the fact that I was using psychedelics, that I was using mushrooms. I mean, it was funny. My last days at CNN, I was adamantly and openly telling people I was using psychedelics. Like I said, I microdosed today. And they're like, what are you even talking about? You had
yeah,
mushrooms today? I was like, yes. And do I look high? They're like, no, you're almost like more creative. Sorry about that. Do I, am I off my chain. No, you more empathetic, you're more creative, you're more authentic. So the last couple of days, as I wanted to talk to more people, I was like, you know what? I want to wear a t-shirt, something that's got, a mushroom on it. Everything was very tie-dye. It was very psychedelic. It was very tie-dye. And Jason, let's be honest, right? I'm a guy with gray hairs. I could be somebody's grandpa. I'm 56 years old. If I start talking to you about psychedelics with some tie-dye shirt on, what are most people, not you, because you understand, but what are most people going to say? Listen, hippie, listen, stoner. Why don't you go
Yeah.
listen to your Grateful Dead 8-track tapes and come back when you're not high, and we'll have a conversation. And that's why the reason and the necessity for Cultivating Wisdom, the apparel brand, was born. Where there's, I'm sure you've seen it, there's a shirt that says microdosing, because I
Yeah.
hope that shirt starts conversations, because someone says, oh, you microdose? I've heard about that. I've read about that. Can you cultivate me with some wisdom? Or someone says, oh, you microdose? So do I. What are you microdosing? Oh, I'm
That's
microdosing
good,
LSD.
man.
Really? I've heard about that. I've read about that. Or this, you know what I mean? This doesn't say anything. This just says much love. But if
Yeah.
you use mushrooms and you're going to say, oh yeah, much love, baby, mushrooms, right? So it's those conversations that we can start, that we can have, and that was the reason for the apparel brand. As I start to share my story more on social media of what I'm doing, I realize that there's this gap between, let's say, your parents, right, and psychedelics. Not your parents, or people your age, your parents' age, because of the stigma, because they're scared, because they had one experience in college and it was just bad and whatever. That there's this one guy that someone like you can say to your parents, hey, I know you're not going to listen to me about microdosing, but listen to this guy, because he lost his job just like you did. He's been divorced just like you have. His kids are older just like your kids. That
Yeah.
on age set depression that you're suffering, he suffered it also. And look at him. He reinvented his life at the age of 56 because of microdosing. Because, Jason, I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for microdosing and I had continued down that road of just having that bad relationship with cannabis, I would not be sitting here in the position that I am right now, having created a platform, having written a book, having been able to speak to people, having been able to be on your podcast. So it's now my mission, my path, which the medicine has shown me, to be this thought leader, to be the person for those Generation Xers, for those millennials, to say, hey, yeah, oh, that's Cesar Marin. He's the one microdosing over 50.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like to say I'm no doctor, right? Because you know, I feel like to be a doctor, I got to be a doctor, but I could definitely help people. And I'm like I confident in my ability and my experience with what I've done to guide people in the right direction.
Hmm.
And I think
And that's,
that's a beautiful thing at what we're doing, right?
yeah, that's the key, Jason. It's sharing our experience. It's not about me telling someone, hey, you have to microdose because this is going to change your life. It's about, look, this is how it changed my life. This is how I've done it. This is what you should do. This is what you should look out for. This is the book you should read. This is the movie you should watch. This is the person you should follow. This is not the chocolate bars you want to buy. Don't be
No.
buying. That's what we do, right? You're right.
Yeah.
You're correct. We're not doctors. We're not, and even people who guide or sit or hold
Yeah, I
space
mean,
for
I wouldn't
people
even
in journey.
necessarily. I'm not a shaman.
No,
I'm not a spirit guide. I'm
you're just,
merely just a guy who has passion for mycology,
yep,
and I would
love
like to,
and heart.
yeah, exactly, and I would like to share that with other people.
Yep.
If this small amount of passion and small amount of like whatever this has brought to me to my life, if I could share that in a fraction amount, in any sense of that word, that's that'll make me happy. And
Yeah.
also at the end of the day, I mean, we all got to pay our bills at the end of the day. I think that's something that uh obviously, whether it's through another job doing this full time, um I guess
And
like I sell, so it's like it's funny that you went through cultivating wisdom through, or made the through the shirts, right?
correct.
Through your
Apparel.
apparel. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's what word I was looking for. uh and I kind of went through similar route. However, mine was through substrate and grains.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and just offering. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good.
So offering substrate and grains for the community, helping people grow, and just I saw there was a whole lot of companies out there offering a whole lot of stuff, but wasn't necessarily the greatest. And I'm not
Correct.
saying it wasn't bad. Like, I'm not saying
Bad,
it
but
was
it could be
bad,
better. There's
but it
something
could be
better to be
better.
offered.
Or so and yeah, throughout time, it ended up being Feng Straight, and now I'm doing the darn
But
thing, flipping eggs on Instagram for you guys.
but I think it's important. It's really important what you're doing, because what's as more people get curious, right? More people are going to want to know, and the more people could be empowered to cultivate their own, right? There's a huge difference between holding a mushroom, knowing that it grew in your house, knowing that you played music for it, knowing that you talked to it, knowing that you grabbed it, knowing that you held it, knowing that you
One
dehydrated it,
hundred
knowing
percent.
that you had it, that it's yours. There's a different feeling between that and going and buying a chocolate bar somewhere, or going and ordering some capsules from the internet,
Yeah.
or
Or even, say like your friend, who, gave you something. I think it's just like, even in the sense of like, say like, you take a lion's mane and you
Mhm.
eat that lion's mane that your friend grew, in comparison to growing that lion's mane and then harvesting it and frying it up that night.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no question of a doubt in your mind when you're eating that mushroom anything about it. You know what I mean?
exactly,
It's like
exactly.
that. So it's a nice, it's an awesome feeling to just take a um, possibly like unnecessary thought in the back of the head and just completely diminish it, so you could enjoy your experience of dinner that much better.
That's so true. That's so true. And again, it's even whether it's mushrooms, whether it's you have your own garden at home, there's something about you cultivating your own
Yeah, dude, I grow
supply.
peppers. Like,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
even heat. Like, I'm not big on. I love spicy food. Fun fact:
uh-huh,
I love
yeah,
spicy
yeah.
food, but it hates me, man. It
Oh,
hates me. And I
stomach
for a
wise,
while I was growing
like
loads of peppers.
stomach wise.
Yeah, well, I have ulcerative colitis.
Okay.
Um, as far as like a medical
Yeah,
condition
yeah, yeah.
goes, got that like pretty much under control. That's why I'm always kind of cooking on the story and stuff. I eat, I try to eat really healthy,
Good,
uh, just to keep my health in
good,
check.
good, good, good. Good.
Um, but
So,
oh
so
gosh,
yeah.
where did we even? I'm
So
sorry.
going back to that, empowering people to be able to cultivate their own medicine. And
Yes,
I know that there's people out there that don't, they're against us calling it medicine, right?
so it's
There's
definitely medicine.
there's governmental agencies that, and big pharma that don't want us calling this medicine, which is fine. That's okay. But it is. So there's something about you growing your own medicine that's, to me, it's empowering. To me, it's incredibly empowering, to be able to do that. Um, and again, the fact that nowadays, because before, or either you had to go out and forage if you wanted to have your own, or you had to have some big tub and some big thing, and it's like, I got lights
Yeah,
and I got whatever. The fact that now it's so easy that literally you can, I mean, I mean, how crazy is that? Like
and I mean,
how crazy is it that we have the potential to do that? That we have the potential, that I have the potential. That's my medicine. Like
yeah,
I'm growing that.
one
That's
hundred percent.
that's
It's
mine.
yours. You're like,
Yeah,
and it's like it's coming from your love too.
exactly.
And there's
It knows the music I play for it. It likes when I talk to it.
knows
It's
how your breath
mine.
smells.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think it's a
well.
beautiful
Have you
thing,
seen?
man.
So I'm interested. Have you? How has the growth been in the sense of the interest that you've seen in people? Because obviously, if you would have done this 5 years ago, it'd be like crickets, right? You're doing it now in a time when there's more exposure, when
Yeah,
more
I mean,
people
I
are
was doing it
interested.
5 years ago.
But yeah, but there was crickets compared to now.
Now it's so much more.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost as if like everything they were talking about 5 years ago has become reality, right? Um, the businesses, we've all created our own businesses. We've all created our own. I don't even want to say businesses anymore because I think there's a prettier word for that. We've all created our own brands,
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Yes, we've
So we've
all been
all,
empowered to
and
create our own brands.
right, we created our brands because at the end of the day, we're all pretty much doing the same thing,
Yep.
just with a different flavor.
Yep.
And it really is like our own personal connections that bring some people in. It is the flipping of the eggs. Believe it or not, people like love it. If like, it's the casual lifestyle of seeing like, I
Yeah.
absolutely did not do dishes last night because,
And it's
but
and it's
no.
it's funny you say that because I think it started I think at the beginning of this year where there's this sense that these influencers, these Rolex, Ferrari, Monaco, look at me influencers are going the wayside, and people are looking more for people who are like I am, people who are like me, people who I can relate with, people who, wait a minute, hold on a second, he's growing his own mushrooms, like, hold on a second, I'm interested, let me see what he's doing, let me see what he's doing. So you're right, it's really cool that we have this ability now to create our own brands, and have our own commercials, literally have our own,
Oh
networks.
gosh, sorry. So I just remembered. You just triggered what I had forgotten. My brain
Yeah.
silently.
Yeah.
But as far as the brands goes, like that's it. Just create. Oh, you know, gosh, never mind. I lost it again. I'm sorry.
Create, but you're right, it's about creating a brand, it's about creating what you're passionate about, right? Finding a way to put that in a bottle, right? And then we now have the ability to create these digital assets. Like, you have the ability to create classes online to help someone in Australia, to help someone in New Zealand, to help someone in Namibia, to help someone in Brazil, to help someone,
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Finland learn how to use these techniques to grow. I mean, it's beautiful that we have that ability now. So I tell people, create your brand and then figure out what it is that you want to leave, what it is that you can teach people that you're so passionate about that 10 people would want the knowledge that you have, and then create courses around it. Give out something for free, create some free lead magnets and PDF of the best upstrains or the best whatever,
Yeah,
um, and then offer some courses, because it's it's literally passive income. It's
yeah.
digital assets that you have, that Jason has, that are online, that people are buying even while he's sleeping.
That's what I'm like. I'm honestly trying to do that more. I feel like I
Mm.
have a fairly decent wealth of knowledge that I can like provide on
Mhm.
some what I feel are simple things only because now I've done them repetitively.
You're an expert at it. You have wisdom. You have knowledge that other people would pay for. You
But I'm
have you
bad with
have.
like filming stuff. If you see all my videos, they're pretty like crazy quality. Pretty much
But
shaky
here's
phone
yeah.
hands
But
and
here's the thing. You're comfortable in front of the camera, right? That's
absolutely.
that's 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 more than half the battle. The setup, that just comes with time and planification, right? Because you're not going to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to do a course on doing this, and I'm just going to fly it. No, you're going to say, okay, wait a minute, how am I going to, what's the first chapter going to be? What's the second chapter going to be? How visually am I going to show this off? What is it going to look like? That's where the work comes in, right? But once you do leave that, once you have that planned out, and once it's out there, then your magic, your knowledge, is your wisdom is there. And it doesn't have to be a Hollywood production. It just has to
Yeah,
be, two cameras where one's here, the other one's showing what you're doing here, and you're just talking to the camera like you always do, and just explaining what you're doing. It's again, it's all these little type
it's
of
all
digital
learning, right?
assets. Yeah, and look, exactly. It's finding, where can I put a course? It's Kajabi. Okay, well, how can I do this, and how can I put it together, and
I wanted to
what is
mention
your audience?
something really quick about cultivating wisdom. Actually, sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
go ahead, bro.
Um, well, and you were saying about so like say like you experience like how you know the people over 50 have experienced all of these things, but also kind of like you could necessarily say like right in an abuse way, right, as well. You can teach people how to use these medicines correctly instead of being abused.
Yeah,
Whereas like uh, say somebody had an addiction problem, uh, and they struggled with substance abuse, then maybe that can also be seen from somebody in that side of things. Like, well, I can use something as a tool rather than use it to just blur
there's
out my problems.
there's a difference. I tell people there's one. I go back to the same thing. Intentions, right? What are your intentions to use these medicines? That's the most important thing. I tell people that I work with. You have to ask yourself, why is it that I'm giving myself consent to ingest this medicine, and what is the outcome that I'm looking for? Okay, that's the first thing. And there's a big difference between getting high and being enlightened. A huge difference. If you're using these medicines to be enlightened because I want to be more authentic, because I want to be more creative, because I want to be more empathetic, um, then there's intentions and you're doing it to be enlightened. If you're using them just to escape, just because I want to feel something, just because, I can't live without it, just because that's not the right way to use these. That's not what these medicines were intended for. That they can be used that way. Anything can be abused, right? Again, it's the relationship that you have with that. I'll be the first one to admit I have a sugar addiction, and I
Oh, me too,
know
man.
I know that the relationship that I have with sugar is not good. It's not a good relationship. And that's when I have to be more conscious and say, you know what? Maybe just a small piece of the pie and not the whole pie. Maybe just one cookie and not 8
The
cookies.
whole pack.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, again, whether it's whatever substance, whatever thing it
I've
is.
seen myself even doing so. It's like, um, I'll get like the bag of Dove chocolates, and I'll just have like a couple. And I see myself getting into my candy dish era real
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how,
Soon
look,
enough, the little strawberry candies are gonna start popping up in my candy dish magically, like all the grandmothers.
right, right. It's sort of, and again, it's the relationships that we have with it. I can let sugar take over my life, or I can say, you know what, I understand it, I get it, I'm going to respect it, and I know I can never say I'm never going to have sugar again, but I can be conscious about how much sugar I am having. So I think
This
that's,
is a perfect transition into one of the most important questions I'm going to ask you.
yeah, yeah.
And it's pretty serious. I ask a lot of people this question. Oftentimes, it makes people uncomfortable through just the hard answer. But what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh wow, dulce de leche, dulce de
Dulce de
leche.
leche.
Yes,
That's it.
definitely.
You're right. You're the first.
that caramel in there with the ice cream. It's and look, I love all ice cream. I don't think there's one flavor ice cream that I've ever said. "Bleh." I like them all. I like them all. But if I did have to make a choice, dulce de leche would definitely be the one. That's a good
Nice,
question. That's a good
man.
question because it's it's, are you vanilla or are you chocolate? Are you, which
Yeah.
is also, yeah.
Like what? I'm coffee. I'm a big coffee guy. I love coffee ice cream.
Oh, coffee ice cream. Yes, yes. I had a friend who lived in Spain who, instead of putting sugar in his coffee, he would put ice cream in his coffee.
Ooh, I've done that before,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
would do that probably for the rest of my life every day if I had the ability to.
It's definitely a good little sweetener. It's
Have you
definitely a
ever
good little
put
sweetener.
butter in your coffee?
You know what? I have not. I know that there's people. It's called bullet coffee, isn't it? I think
Uh,
that some people who fast use some type of it. I've heard
Okay,
it before.
I've
Have you?
done it
Have you?
before.
Yeah. And
It just tasted like greasy black coffee.
yeah, that's what I figured. If I'm gonna enjoy my coffee, I'm gonna like have a good coffee. I'm not, especially being Colombian. There's something about good coffee that's important. That's important. Even though I don't, I used to drink a lot more coffee. Now I have coffee a day maybe. But yeah, again, another substance that you have to have a
Yeah. I mean, I
different
have
relationship with.
nicotine.
Yeah, yeah,
It's in
and
my
again, look,
life.
it's sort of it's again, it's the relationship that we have with it, right? That's what it's about. It's not about I'm never going to do this again. It's about, can I be better without it? Is it something that um
Well,
I don't
yeah.
I don't think yeah, I don't think there should be anything in life that we should feel like we can't live without it, because that's just not a good thing, whether it's love, whether it's companionship, whether it's that attachment to whatever it is, and it's that sense
The
of loss
unhealthy
of whatever it
attachment
is.
that
Yeah,
is created with whatever it may be.
correct.
I'm on currently on my journey of like sobriety. I'm,
Good. Congratulations, brother.
California sober for
Cali sober.
so yeah, I haven't drank any alcohol for almost 8 months.
Good for
Um,
you. Congratulations, brother.
and yeah, I've just been cutting down on the partying and
Good.
trying to just do the whole thing.
You- it's so funny because
And it's
I'm
fun.
not.
So it's like it's funny that you mentioned the control aspect.
Yeah,
Whereas like
yeah.
even in this time, I've like also learned like I had an unhealthy relationship with marijuana as well.
Okay.
Um, and it's seeing that, right, like getting off of all of the other things, and actually like now I only have like my brain and me smoking weed to really deal with. And then like finally, over time you're like, well, this smoking weed is making me pretty not very productive, and I know it's not. Well, it's like at that point I know it's not anything but either my brain and or this.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
okay, I gotta stop. So I smoke a significant amount less than I have
Mm.
arguably since I was a
Mhm, mhm.
teenager.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
but I needed that heroic dose of sobriety to genuinely understand exactly what was going on in my life and
exactly.
what actual issues were happening and having, and the consequences of said issues. So it's just kind of like cool to actually be able to like start figuring stuff out rather than smoking it away.
Yeah, yeah, and it's. I think that it's for me. I'm just talking from experience. Obviously, not everyone has this, but for me, cannabis was just a sense of escapism. And you talked about it. It's just and it's just escaping from reality, escaping from life, escaping, and that's not a way to live. You have to be present. You have to totally be present. And when the relationship with the cannabis is to the point where it's like I'm just going to escape, or with the alcohol, or with pornography, or with shoplifting, or with whatever it is, because most addictions are just escapism. You're just escaping reality. You're just getting this quick dopamine, to escape your true reality. Once you do that, I think it's important. It's we're going back to the sobriety thing, and it's I'm proud of you, for your 8 months.
Thank you.
When I started to microdose, not I was never a big drinker, but the desire or the intentions to drink really were gone. It was just not, and it's not that I look down on people drinking, or that, but I have gotten a sense, and I have seen it myself. It was funny, we were at a conference not too long ago, sort of after party. Obviously it's a psychedelic conference. There's adult candy going around. And nothing, nothing crazy, people just in, museum type situations, just enjoying their friends, enjoying whatever,
Yeah,
enjoying life.
enjoying the
Yeah,
kaleidoscopes.
no one rolling around the ground. And we were leaving this restaurant. We were all in our total senses. And these two couples came in, and you could tell they'd had a lot to drink. And it just hit me like alcohol literally makes people sloppy. Like you
Yeah,
get
it does. Well,
sloppy.
I guess they call it. So it's like I had a friend. Actually, it was my buddy Tyler. He
Mm-hmm.
said that well, they call it spirits for a reason, and it's like, oh, wow, it's like I'm not judging anybody for
No,
anything.
no, 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 no,
I've
not at all.
very much so had my fair share, but like of enjoyment in life, so to speak. I wouldn't
Yeah,
even necessarily even call it that right now, but um
experiences,
yeah,
experiences.
experience. You know, I had some great experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I don't believe that it's just. I do believe that it's just a completely negative thing. There's
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes the consequences are usually sloppy, right?
yeah, if you could control alcohol, I think like as a person who could control their alcohol consumption, I think that's honestly a impressive thing. Um,
Yeah, but most people can't. That's the problem. So they still
exactly, and
end up being
that's
sloppy.
why I'm saying, you know, if
Yeah,
you can actually
yeah.
have like enough alcohol but not get sloppy and stay, you know, stay cool, calm, and collective, then
Hmm, hmm.
you
Yeah,
know,
and again,
heck
look.
yeah, keep it up. But if you can't, also keep it up because it's not, you know. But I just noticed I didn't want to experience that anymore. I didn't want
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
sloppy. I wanted to be clear and
Conscious.
you know, conscious. Yeah, I want to
Yeah, yeah.
experience this life. It's like, you know, our story's already short as is. You know, there's no, I don't have any time to lose any more memories.
No, no, no. Someone said the other day, or I read this somewhere the other day, and it said, "Do you realize that you're a day closer to death? What are you going to do about it?" And it's like it's a bit morbid, but it is right. Every day we're a day closer to it, and it's like, are we going to waste our time, whatever, being unconscious, or are we going to be conscious?
We're gonna be conscious, at
Yeah,
least over here in these parts.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, we're
yeah.
gonna continue to grow, and
Exactly. And
that's it.
also con-
I
connect, yeah, and also connect with people so that we hope that we can awaken people to also be conscious.
absolutely, you know, and it's gonna be a slow process, right? And there's a whole lot of people who have either they're uh, they're set in their mindset or whatever, and you know, just like anything, it's going to be a
Yeah,
slow burn.
yeah,
However,
yeah,
I
yeah.
do feel that with the legalization of marijuana that happened, you know, when that kind of went recreational the first time ever, you know, and stuff like that, I do feel as if psilocybin is now moving forward, like, you know, psychedelics in general.
Yeah, yeah.
Psychedelic treatment is moving a lot faster than the timeline of arguably of what like marijuana has been in comparison to like how big of like movements I guess are being made
Hmm.
um,
And I think it's
from a
important.
personal.
Yeah, I think it's important that the psychedelic and the mushroom or psilocybin space learns from the cannabis industry, right? Learns from its mistakes, learns from its triumphs,
Absolutely,
because um, as much as we are advocates, that these medicines, that psychedelics can be used to help a lot of people, they can also be used the wrong way. And my concern, or my biggest fear, um, is again, look, we've talked about this diamond shrooms thing, right? This um,
yeah.
that people that people are inquiring, or getting their psychedelics from the gas station, or
So
from
here,
it's
kind of
it
here's my big problem on that. It's like mucimol, right?
yeah,
Mucimol is from Amanita muscaria,
mascara, correct, yeah,
um, and that's toxic at
it is,
like
in high
if
amounts, it's very toxic.
consumed at um, high enough, like I've learned that like Amanita muscaria is to be eaten. You know, a lot of people parboil them like 3 times. You
Mm-hmm,
know, to
mm-hmm.
get some toxins out before it's a whole entire like process to
Yep,
even, you know, for
consume
people
them
to. From what I've heard is like for
raw.
comfortable, you know, consumption. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of blows my mind that this is being allowed. Obviously there's going to be such a crazy shutdown on so much stuff because of diamond shrooms. It's not even funny.
Yep,
And I, at least I hope so, in some
I
sense
hope
of
so.
like some things, you know, like for instance mucimol, like, you know, it's like Amanita muscaria, that shouldn't be like, I don't know, I guess it helps people, but it should 100% like that's more dangerous than psilocybin is.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so there's I feel, in my opinion, two types of people in this world, right? There's people who manifest love you wealth, and there's people who manifest fuck you wealth, right?
Yeah,
people who knowingly um, adulter or put in products or chemicals that they know can get people sick, whether it's 4-ACO-DMT, whether it's mucimol, and not really let people know. I think that's a manifestation of FU wealth. And that's if we can weed out somehow, excuse me, through regulation, through someone had there was this article in Vox which laid down the different ways that potentially psychedelics could be made more accessible to people, because that's at the end of the day, that's the idea, right? That somehow
Yeah.
they're accessible to more people. I'm not a big fan of making it accessible to everyone, because we would be literally a a headline away from someone having a bad experience, going naked, doing cartwheels on a highway, having 5 cars crash and people
I mean,
die.
that's already
But then,
happened, but like, a lot of the times it's like the articles, person high on mushrooms, but then you read through the article and they're like, person high on methamphetamines, flaca, and psilocybin. And it's
yeah,
like, oh, well, it's like you
there was a
could,
lot more things. Yeah, there's so it's this situation where um the more we can, it goes back to the education thing. It goes back to, we are educators, right? You're educating people to say, hey, you know what? You can do this on your own. You don't have to stop at the gas station or a vape shop to microdose. You realize
yeah.
that, right? So you're educating people. I'm educating people, and the more we have of that, the more we avoid people going to a smoke shop or going to a gas station or buying something off the internet because they're not sure if people are scrupulous or doing the right things. Or again, people who you trust. Look, I wrote a book um, in which it's an ebook, in which in the ebook there's a page called the Much Love Market, and it's going to be filled with people who I know, companies like yours who have looked at the owners and have met with them and have heard their stories, so that we can have people ordering and buying things that are reliable, and they're not buying things from people who are manifesting FU wealth.
Yeah, I mean, nobody got time for FU wealth. If you're listening to this podcast and you're here for some FU wealth, get to stepping. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
I find another podcast. No FU
Yeah.
wealth here. Yeah, it's all love you wealth. And the thing is, sometimes love you wealth takes time, because it takes investment, because it takes connections, because it takes networking, because it takes giving a little, whether it's time, whether it's whatever. And wealth isn't, wealth, we have this vision of money, and wealth isn't really about
No,
money.
wealth
Wealth,
is not. Wealth for me is being able to live comfortably and happy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Wealth is about connections. This is wealth. To me, this is wealth.
Absolutely. This is
Yeah,
100%
wealth.
wealth.
Yeah, wealth is education.
Connection,
Wealth is,
absolutely, as well.
yeah, wealth is helping other people. Wealth is, loving your neighbor. That's wealth.
On
That's what
that
we
note
should
of
be all about.
connection, though,
Yeah,
um, I feel as if, like, right, connection isn't only made solely through business and or business interests, right?
correct,
I think
correct.
connection is also made through personal hobbies. And what do you like to do when you're not hustling? Like what?
You know what? I'm a big cyclist. I'm a big cycling fan. And it's a funny story because, as a good Latin American, I played soccer all my life. I played soccer as a kid, but I played goalkeeper. And obviously, people can't tell. I'm not. I'm very limited height. I'm 5'5". So but I played goalkeeper all through my youth. And when I get to high school and we're playing on bigger goals, and I go to try out to play goalkeeper, the coach was literally like laughed in my face and said, "You
Nah.
want to play what?" I said, "Goalkeeper." He goes, "Dude, can you even touch the crossbar without jumping?" And I was like, no, but I'm really good and I communicate and I dive. He goes, "Look, dude, I'm sorry, but it's not gonna happen. It's not. It's just we need. You got to be tall to be a goalkeeper." So my dreams were shattered, but only for a small amount of time, because at about that time, I'm about 16 years old, the Colombian cyclists started going over to the Tour de France and started doing well. And I fell in love with cycling. I fell in love with being out on a bicycle and just the freedom, and the adrenaline and the speed, and just the torture it can be to be on a bicycle,
Yeah.
competing at that level. So cycling is my jam. I have a bicycle tattooed on my wrist. So yeah, in my free time, besides hanging out with my dog and chatting with my kids, and being with my wonderful wife, it's definitely the bicycle. That's in my free time what I'll read about, what I'll watch, what I'll get geeked out about.
I mean, you could arguably use the bicycle as multiple meanings,
Yeah,
if you
right.
know what I mean.
My bicycle day, exactly, exactly. I have definitely commemorated the mushrooms. So the mushrooms are definitely there for life.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I got a little.
Oh, nice, beautiful. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Nice. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's sort of I'm very grateful to the mushrooms. The mushrooms really um I could literally say they saved my life. They really did. It gave me a new lease on life. It gave me a new career. It gave me new purpose. It gave me, new meaning. And all these other psychedelics, which I've sat with intentionally, have also, whether it's been, the microdosing of LSD, whether it was, sitting with 5-MeO DMT, um, you know, all of them have been incredibly profound experiences because I've used them with intentions. It's never been, oh, you know what? Let me just eat some mushrooms, see what happens.
Oh man, I've definitely done that. I won't even lie. There have been
Yeah.
absolutely times where I've just munched down and said, let's strap in, boy." You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, I have a couple friends who not too long ago, they had asked me if I could help them procure some medicine, and they're like, "Oh, we want 10 grams." I was like, "Oh, dude, no, we know, we're experienced." I'm like, I don't know if I'm like, if I'm up for letting you guys sit with that. No, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. Of course, the next day it was like, dude, we had to strap in. It was like, all right. I told you. I told you. They're like, okay,
I
we just.
mean, and that's like with all that, the knowledge, right? And I'm teaching people. It's also teaching people with the times as the times go, and understanding that these hybridized mushrooms, which have been worked on for years and
Mhm,
years
mhm.
by these extremely talented people, have arguably changed in potency and everything. In through over time. I mean, not that I have any experience with it, but I've definitely seen the tests of the cups, and what a golden teacher was, 4 years ago. What a golden teacher is today, 4 years ago, seems to be the potency of what an ape was 4 years ago.
4 years ago, right? And it's and then
Yeah.
it and the crazy thing is now, obviously, with genetics, with crossbreeding, with just science, and let's again pushing the envelope, citizen science. You all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's a tidal wave albino penis envy. It's like, what?
Man, the whole name thing, I have respect for you naming a variety, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I also I think I want to, I'm big on also keeping the transparency of the lineage of
Yeah,
this variety,
yeah,
because we can't get lost in all this mumbo jumbo, Wizard 9000 talk. And then not saying it's not cool, because who doesn't want to name something, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that just kind of comes into the understanding that mycology as a whole is such an undiscovered science
Mm, mm,
in comparison to all of arguably all of the others.
yeah,
There's so many
yeah.
more sciences, but I mean, as far as making a discovery, I've said this a couple of times, I feel, on podcast episodes, but you and or I could walk outside, find a mushroom growing in our front yard, and possibly make a scientific discovery. So when you think about
True,
it in
true.
that sense, um, as far as the ease of being, part of something in the scientific world without having to be Einstein, or without having to be an oncologist with an oncologist at the age of 20 with 50 years of experience.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of a cool little aspect, and that can also just intrigue people in that sense, right? It's like it's not that hard. Just like, mycology doesn't have to be hard. It can be rocket science, but a big part of reason why I show people the casual lifestyle is because you can definitely just like some of my inspirations to this day still use a still air box. They don't even have
hmm
a flow hood. So
Yeah.
it's like, and these are some people that I look up to
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
And when I see that, it's like kind of cool being able to be in the position I'm in, and kind of like the audience I've created, because I can kind of just sit back and like just kind of look at everything, right? It's kind of do
hmm
whatever I
hmm
want at the end of the day, just like
Yeah.
not in a negative way. I don't mean that when I say that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
more
No. No.
so,
Of course.
it's not all about flow hoods and you know like grow lights. Arguably, it's it's just about the passion. And if you find some of these people who have the craziest passion, and they have it's like some of these ideas, it's like brainstorming with somebody, talking mycology, talking shop with somebody who's passionate about this stuff, has gotten me, arguably so much further than I probably would have ever gotten if I didn't have these conversations, if I didn't network, make these connections
hmm
that we've
Have
been
these
talking
mentors.
about.
Yeah.
It's I put so much um, credit. I give so much credit to my mentors, some of which who aren't even alive to today, and without their help. And it's like those are the true cowboys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The past
Yeah.
few years, everybody getting into this is kind of like it's fairly vanilla. It's definitely not dulce de leche, dude. You know,
Yeah.
but as far as like just, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm
Yeah.
definitely saying it's a great thing because more people are obviously becoming open to this being a medicine. And I
hmm
think that's something I wanted to say. It's like also understanding that like medicines are, in my experience, this is my personal, medicine is made to be like no longer taken.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, and I don't think like you shouldn't, while you can microdose forever,
I don't think you should.
I think, like, yeah, I don't know if it necessarily you need to be in a microdose regimen for, your whole life. I
No.
think me personally, and
No.
what I've learned through psychedelics is that, like, I think the ultimate lesson that I've currently learned at this point in life is that it has taught me how to look at myself and other things in a third person perspective
Nice.
without having to be in a altered state of mind through
A substance.
a substance,
Yeah.
whether it may be psilocybin or whether it may,
Whatever.
what I mean,
Whatever
in
it is.
weed. You're just, it just, I'm able to like now step back and look, and we realize that I may have been being a dickhead at that time,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe I was in the right to uh, react the way I did, or
hmm
and I think that's a cool thing. It's like being able to like arguably um, make your like give yourself what you would call it, to kind of like teach yourself a lesson, right?
Yeah. 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 I think that's, again, it's what it's about. It's learning, right? And it goes back to the educational thing. Um, because whatever your mentors taught you, you eventually hand that wisdom down, right? And it goes from you getting educated to you being able to educate others, which is, again, that's what we're here on this earth to do, right? To sort of, be able to take and give back at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's like it's always, so there's something I learned, so to give you a little bit about the mycology community. Before it was this, it was very, very low key.
hmm
um
hmm
there was like pretty much like a referral basis.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
there was no thing. So it's like to get in contact with some of these people, you had to like wait like months and months, and you had to like see if they commented on a person you follow's post, and then
Yeah.
like comment to their, like, you know what I mean? You had to get vetted in to
Hmm.
see these guys do this stuff. Um, and So it's like to learn the knowledge, to gain that connection, it was really hard. But
Yeah.
you, the way you gained the connection was by showing passion. It's like these
Exactly.
guys understood exactly what they were doing. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And at that time, you know what I mean? Even what, let's say 20 years ago, you're doing this, is a completely different ball game. So it's
Exactly.
like the people who were doing this 20 years ago taught me how to do that, you know, what they were doing a few years ago. And
Hmm.
without their sacrifice to the game, so to
Yep.
speak,
Yep. Yep.
there wouldn't have been my starting point. And then without my sacrifice to the game, there won't be somebody else's starting point. And then so on and so forth. And that's science right there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
all taking notes and then being able to teach somebody, but not having them remake the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The
No.
wheel's doing all right. If you get comfortable enough with the wheel, then experimenting with reinventing it is cool. But if you're trying
Exactly.
to start off, you might as well start off with the most current wheel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's sort of it's that wisdom that's handed down, which is really important.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, well, honestly, we've been chatting for about an hour now. I
Beautiful.
wanted to, just kind of. So, how can people contact you? How can people get a hold of you if
I, I
they're interested in what you're doing?
I appreciate you asking, Jason. That's awesome. So one, the big platform right now, or my niche, like I said, is getting the word out. Right, cultivating wisdom. The apparel brand is an important way for all of us to get this message out there. So that's cultivatingwisdom.net is the apparel brand. I'm actually going to create a little um, discount code, Fungcast 20, so your listeners or your viewers can get 20% off of the apparel. So let's do that. And then microdosingover50.com is the platform for people over 50, for, like I said, your parents friends, or even my parents. My parents are 80 and still, they're interested, their curiosity has been poked at. So microdosingover50.com, cultivatingwisdom.net, and then obviously I'm always on Instagram, which is cultivating.wisdom. There's also, like I said, on microdosingover50.com. If you go down a little bit, there's a free ebook that I've got out there. It's a fun, it's like a kid's book for adults on introducing them to microdosing. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm always around. We're getting ready. We're letting people know that October 19th and 20th. I'm on the board of Cannadelic DC, which is a big, huge cannabis
Oh
and
shit!
Cannadelic conference that's coming up in DC right before the elections. We want to knock on politicians' doorsteps and say, hey, we're here. People using cannabis and psychedelic responsibly is growing. We need legislations to change. We need therapy for veterans. We need more research into this. And we're here. We're here, and we're not a whole bunch of stoners or a
That's
bunch of
so awesome,
hippies.
man.
We're doctors and we're lawyers and we're entrepreneurs, and we're people with brands, and we're doing this the right way. So if you can tap into that, Cannadelic DC again, October 19th and 20th, we're gonna have a great time. It's people with a lot of love, people who really want to move the psychedelic and the cannabis space forward in the right way, manifesting love you wealth. So definitely, I mean, a couple of different places where people could check me out, and I'm always around. I'm always around, or either Dennis's incubator. Love to plug him because Dennis is a great
Yeah,
person. He's a great
absolutely. We
marketer.
definitely got to plug Dennis's incubator, guys. If you
Yeah,
haven't been on there, Dennis Walker of Micropreneur Podcast. He does an incubator. Is it once a week?
once a week, usually Thursdays. Usually Thursdays. So that's he's always fun. Dennis is such a good.
It's such
He's
a
such
great
a
networking opportunity. He's such a
he is
wonderful person. Nothing but high fives and positive vibes have
for
come from
sure,
Dennis.
for
His
sure. Again,
satire is so funny. He hits the points that we all truly understand, and the
Yep.
people who don't can get a laugh because it's just so um exaggerated, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's beautiful. He's a great. It's funny. We've had this discuss. I had this conversation with him. What he's literally the court gesture of the psychedelic space. You
Oh
know, the
yeah.
guy who can tell the king, you know, his ass smells like farts and his wife is ugly, and no one and everyone's gonna love him for it. Everyone's gonna say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he's kind of right. Yeah, bud. And no, and he speaks it the way it is. He's not gonna hold back, and he's very open and very transparent of how he sees the psychedelic space. And I think we can all learn from him, because we can all learn in the sense of, okay, yeah, wait a minute, hold on a second. That's some questionable, shady shit that's going on. And Dennis is bringing it to the attention in a funny way without taking himself too serious or too newsy or too. So yeah, good on hat outs on him. And look, and thank you to him. You and I really connected. So, you know, thanks to him for
Without the
being at my
incubator,
Stellar
this may
Network.
not have been
Exactly.
a thing.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually been on two podcasts because of the incubator, yours and Cole's. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
So that right there is just a example of the networking opportunities that you can find when you go to Dennis's incubator.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
and it's not just it's just so people know, it's not just a psychedelic talk. We talk about everything. We talk about
no,
mushroom leather. We talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about, hey, I'm creating this business. How do I do my taxes for it? Or
it's a
how it's just,
micropreneur
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
chat. So
yeah.
for the most part, we all hop on. We all have different expertise, and we all share
Different
and
brands.
share our wealth of knowledge, different brands and different areas of interest.
Yep.
However, it's all in the same general family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that point, we're all sharing, we're all learning. You know,
Yeah.
something one may not know, another may know, and we all get, like, arguably our 5 minutes of fame for the week. It's kind of
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's a great look. It's a great open forum, a connection, a place for good people to come and just share what they're doing during the week, which is really important. We go back. Look, we started the discussion, and I'm glad we sort of ended this way, about that mycelial network connection, right? That the more
Full
that we can
circle.
connect to humans, the more we can connect to humans, the better we are. So the more we can pretend to be mushrooms and connect to these other mushrooms and all these other stuff that's around us, right? The better we can be. And that's beautiful that you're doing this, Jason. You know, hats off to you, like I said earlier, for what you're doing, for creating these spaces for people to have these conversations. I think that's really important. And then again, because we show off all these other people to the people who are connected to us. And again, we just become better mushrooms.
Gosh, well, with that being said, Caesar, I've had such a wonderful time speaking
It's
with
been a
you
blast.
today. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and being our guest for this episode 33.
Anytime, anytime. I'd love to. I'd love to sort of connect and be part of it.
Yeah, man, and I'd love to have you on more often. This isn't a
Perfect.
one and
Let's
done
do it.
kind of deal.
Yeah, for sure. Let's keep
Friendships
connecting.
aren't only one conversation, right?
For sure. Let's definitely keep connecting.
All right. Well, thank you so
All
much. You
right,
have a
brother.
wonderful day, and
Thank you.
thanks for listening, y'all.
Like I tell everybody, keep cultivating wisdom, keep spreading much love. And remember, today is the best day of your life because it's the only one you got. So, Jason, thanks for being part of the best day of my life.
Thank you, Caesar. Likewise. Catch you later, bud.
All right, brother. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Fungcast. If you like this podcast and would like to support my ventures, you can do so by purchasing products from me at fungstraight.com and or subscribing to my Patreons at Fungstraight and or at Fungcast. If you'd like to have your company featured in a Fungcast episode, you can do so by sponsoring a future episode. If this is something you're interested in doing, please email us at fungstraight@gmail.com and we'll get you set up and advertised at the end of an episode of our choosing. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And much love. Peace.